what's up? So in today's video, I wanted to let you in on a little Sunday ritual I have, which is every Sunday in 2024, I scan the week's Polaroids. And it's a process that I actually greatly look forward to. I usually come here in my office, I navigate through my absolutely messy desk that's covered in all kinds of nonsense, lenses, cameras, I mean, you name it, there's all this stuff in the way. But I sit here, I watch something on my screen, and then I just go through the process of scanning Polaroids. A few of you have asked my scanning process, and I'm gonna tell you that if you're a photography professional, if you're somebody that scans Polaroids or scans film or whatever, you're gonna look at my process and think, that guy's an idiot. And you know what? Maybe I am. I've looked up solutions, and the solutions to my process I don't really like. So here's the problem here. This is a disaster. So I kind of have to just scoot things over, and then I can set up my workstation here. Okay, so here's the scanner that I scan on my Polaroids with. Go over here, turn it on. Okay, so green light means it's on. Then I navigate through the disaster that's my desk and grab my cord. Obviously, then I, plug it in. Then I take my small album of Polaroids here. This is what I put all my Polaroids in throughout the week, is I keep them in this album to protect them. If I'm traveling, whatever, I can just put the whole week's Polaroids in here so they're all in one place. I don't lose them. They don't get damaged. And I scan. This week was kind of a heavy week. I have a lot of Polaroids I kind of like this week. And let's begin. I'm kind of letting you into my special Sunday alone time, quite honestly. This is one of the few times that I just get to spend time just thinking about my photos, kind of just in meditation, watching something, chilling, just kind of, it's somewhat monotonous work, and I like it, it's a fun little Sunday tradition now. Okay, so here's the part you're not gonna like. So we're gonna start off with the first image of the week. Basically, this is how I do it. So open the tray here, got my microfiber, and I kind of just give it a good wipe down, And yeah, plop, and I just kind of make sure it's straight, and then I do that. And I hit preview, just kind of make sure this fits right. I want to include some of this overall white inside your crop square, because then in Photoshop, if the color shift is off, you can use that white as kind of a calibration as what true white is supposed to be. So I always make sure to include some of this white in my scan here so that Photoshop has a reference point if I have to do any serious color shifting, because the white frames in these Polaroids, they kind of sometimes turn green or blue or whatever. This is day 190, so I select the day 190 folder, and then I just hit scan. And these at 1200 DPI, just so I can make big prints out of them if I want, and just have a giant master file. I mentioned that people aren't gonna like my scanning process, and that's simply because of the way I just plop the Polaroid onto the scanner. What's the problem with that? Aren't you supposed to just plop things on a scanner in order to scan them? Well, yes and no. The problem with Polaroids is that they're glossy. And so because they're glossy, when they go up against the glass surface of the scanner, they create what's called Newton rings. And you'll recall that a couple videos ago when I printed some of these large, I had Newton rings in my giant prints, my giant Polaroid print. And this is basically just an effect from the glossiness of the Polaroid touching the glossiness of the scanner glass. And so what you're supposed to do is create some separation between them, basically putting them in a, adapter or thing of some kind that raises them slightly off the glass so that you don't capture where the two glossy surfaces touch. And someone mentioned this to me in the comments. So I looked up this instant scan adapter on Brooklyn Film Camera's website. I watched a few videos of it being used, but basically it is a piece of black acrylic that lays on top of your scanner, and it fits the Polaroids in there and gives them a little space as to avoid Newton rings. And not only does it avoid Newton rings, but you can scan 4 at once. And notice I'm only scanning 1 at a time. Here's the problem. $55 for a piece of acrylic that's got to be like, I don't know, 10.5 inches. And I just find that kind of upsetting. And listen, I'm not a guy that's afraid to spend money on dumb photography accessories, but I'm like, $55 for a piece of black acrylic that scans 4 things at once, which I don't even want to have to deal with 4 at once. And I'll tell you why in a second. Okay, so here's why I like to only scan 1 at a time. Because there's only 1. If I scanned 4 at a time, it would be a document with 4 panels. Okay, so number 1, be 1 file with 4 images. Well, to do that, to extract each individual Polaroid out of that image, I would have to crop out each one and then go back to the original document, undo that or whatever, and go to the next one. And that just takes a lot of time. What's actually faster is just opening 1 single Polaroid and then freaking just working on it. So here's what I do. So I select all and I try to get the corners correct. So I square it up. And so I go to transform and then distort. And then I just zoom in and I just get my corners right. And you can see that scanning at 1200 DPI just gives me a ridiculous amount of detail. I mean, it's crazy the stuff I can see at 1200 DPI. So, check it out. It's all squared up now. Done. 1. Okay, so then I go through and I look for dust and stuff. And I'll just kind of get dust out. I wiped it off beforehand, so there's not a ridiculous amount of dust everywhere, which is nice. You know, Polaroids, I kind of like a little bit of dust, a little bit of imperfection, just because that's the nature of the material. But I get rid of a lot of the like really distracting stuff. And I have not seen any Newton rings in this one, because the fact is that you don't get Newton rings every time. Usually when I get Newton rings, I've noticed I get them at the bottom of the Polaroid, and I do not see any in this one. So yeah, pretty good. A $55 piece of acrylic that you can put 4 Polaroids in, and it puts spacing between the Polaroids and the scanner glass to avoid Newton rings, and you're scanning 4 Polaroids at once. In theory, sounds like it saves a lot of time. I just went through 2 Polaroids here, and neither had Newton rings, okay? I scanned 15 of them in 30 minutes at 1200 DPI, so, you know, I'm moving pretty quick for scanning files with that much data in them. And I just open 1 file at a time, clean it, 1 file at a time, clean it, and it really doesn't take that long. I do not think a $55 piece of acrylic is gonna save you that much time. It may give you peace of mind that you won't have to edit out Newton rings, potentially, maybe. I'm not having to edit out any in the ones I've looked at so far. So if you want that peace of mind, I recommend spending $55 on a piece of machined acrylic that you can fit your Polaroids in. But I really don't think it's necessary. I think it's kind of a waste of money, quite honestly. If you're just careful with how you're scanning, clean the scanner glass, and just be vigilant, I think you can burn through a lot of Polaroids very quickly, make huge files that you can print large out of, and call it a day, and save $55. But as far as the scanning 4 at a time, you're gonna have to take it into Photoshop and edit each one out of that file individually. So you're doing more work on the editing end to isolate each Polaroid. So you're still having to spend time either way, and I would rather spend the time setting up 1 scan, scanning it, and then just being able to open them all 1 at a time, crop them, clean them up, and then go into file, scripts, and then image processor, export all my JPEGs to each individual folder automatically, and then boom, I have master files I can print with, I've got files I can make Instagram posts with, all like that.